Some of you may or may not have heard about the Lisbon Treaty. To put it bluntly, it's no more than the capitulation document signed by a country who has been taken over by a marauding army, if you like. Now, that sounds a bit dramatic, but when you listen to what they've actually got planned in it. Now, Gordon Brown, the duplicitous little shite that he is. Now, I've got to word this fairly politely because it's going out on both channels, but this is really important. You must listen to it. Gordon Brown went off and signed on our behalf a treaty that basically gives away everything. Now, this treaty is tied up in gobbledygook, so the average people can't understand it. But luckily, there are some decent people out there with incredible minds on them who have translated it. So it says, and I'm dyslexic, so I might struggle a bit here. Just in case anyone has forgotten what Gordon Brown ratified in the dinner, namely the Lisbon Treaty, the following should give an insight into what Teresa the Appeaser is doing her level best to hang on to her latest botcher. Number one, the UK, along with existing members of the EU, lose their abstention veto in 2020, as laid down in the Lisbon Treaty. When the system changes to that of a majority acceptance with no abstentions or vetoes being allowed. Great. Number two, all member nations will become states of a new federal nation of the EU by 2020, as clearly laid out by the Lisbon Treaty, with no exceptions or vetoes. Gets worse. 3. All member states must adopt the euro by 2022, and all new member states must do so within 2 years of joining the EU, as laid down by the Lisbon Treaty. Number 4. The London, and this is really worrying, the London Stock Exchange will move to Frankfurt in 2020 and be integrated into the EU Stock Exchange, resulting in a loss of 200,000 plus jobs in the UK. Because of the relocation, this has already been pre-agreed and is only on holding pattern, or it's been put on hold until the Brexit negotiations have been dealt with. Let me see what we've got here. Number 5, the EU Parliament and ECJ become supreme over all legislative bodies. I can't get that out, sorry, but basic. Number 6, the UK will adopt 100% of whatever the EU Parliament or ECJ lays down without any means of abstention or veto, negating the need for the UK to have Lords or even Commons as we know it. So the Houses of Commons, rather than being a building full of traitors, will then actually be a tourist attraction, I suppose. So that's good. Where are we? Number 7. The UK will not be able to make its own trade deals. Can't have us doing well. Number 8. The UK will not be able to set its own trade tariffs. Number 9. The UK will not be able to set its own trade quotas. Number 10. The UK loses control of its fishing rights. There's a shock. Number 11. The UK loses control of oil and gas rights. Yep, that's the North Sea now owned by them. Where are we? Number 12. The UK loses control of its borders and enters the Schengen region by 2022, as clearly laid down by the Lisbon Treaty. We will be flooded by migrants. Number 13. The UK loses control of its planning legislation. Yes, you won't be able to stick an extension up or do anything to your house, your land or whatever unless them in Brussels say it's okay. Number 14, the UK loses control of its armed forces, including its nuclear deterrent. So, if Corbyn doesn't get in and get rid of Trident, as he wants to, the EU will take over. Brilliant. Okay. Number 15, the UK loses full control of its taxation policy. So, basically, the EU could then up our tax to whatever levels they see fit. Anybody worried yet? Number 16. The UK loses the ability to create its own laws and to implement them. Yes, because we can't have us setting out anything that would possibly make common sense. What else have we got? This is all going well, isn't it? Number 17. The UK loses its standing in the Commonwealth. Because we can't have any allies, can we now? Number 18, the UK loses control of any provinces or affiliated nations, e.g. Falklands, Cayman Islands, Gibraltar, etc. We give them all back. So If the Labour government get in, Corbyn gives them back anyway. But if we stay in the EU, which they want to do, obviously they're making a mess out of Brexit, they take all this off our hands, which is terribly kind of them, isn't it? Okay, number 19, the UK loses control of its judicial system. Like we have much control at the moment anyway. 20, the UK loses control of its internal policy. 21, the UK loses full control of its national policy. 22, the UK loses its right to call itself a nation in its own right. You are now a federal member of the EU. So you are no longer Great Britain, you are just a part of the EU. Okay. UK. Yeah, the UK loses control of its space exploration programme. I wasn't fully aware of that, but that doesn't shock me. 24. The UK loses control of its aviation and sea lane jurisdiction. So if they wanted to at any point, they could say nothing else is allowed in. And we're, well, it doesn't bear thinking about. 25. The UK loses its rebate in 2020 as laid down in the Lisbon Treaty. 26. The UK's contribution to the EU is set to increase by an average of 1.2 billion per annum and by 2.3 billion per annum by 2020. Yes, we are just an open tax book for them. Basically, they can just say, give us more, and we have no other right to do this. This is the future that the youth of today think we stole from them. So basically, in 1939 to 45, we were fighting against Nazi Germany and the threat of them invading us. However, should they have invaded us, I don't know as it would have been as bad as this. Maybe it might, but either way, we fought them off. So since we've all got nuclear weapons, well, at least a few of us have, under common purpose, cultural Marxism, all the rest of it, they decided that they wanted to break the nation from within, weaken it, and then through bureaucracy, deception, and whatever else you want to put it, they could take us over that way. And they plan to do just that. Now, Gordon Brown, in his own right, is a traitor, as many are in the Houses of Parliament, the House of Lords, whatever, they're all the same. The other thing that's interesting is that Theresa May should get together with a Marxist, terrorist supporting stain of a person, which she's professed to dislike greatly in the past, and yet we can work with this man. She would work with the devil himself if it furthered her career. But I hope this is a message to both Labour and Conservative. Who you think you were voting for and the promises that they made to you are very obviously not what we thought. We've had people that stood up and said, I will deliver Brexit. I think that no deal is better than a bad deal. And now they've reneged on all of that. They've gone against the will of the people, and the latest survey out says that all of England and Wales, in a majority, would prefer to leave with a no deal, except London. And unfortunately, the London bubble is where most of these muppets spend the greater amount of their time, rather than their constituencies. We already know that the door knockers now, for the Conservatives, and I don't know if it's Labour, couldn't go out, and well, certainly not Conservative, couldn't go out knocking doors for fear of their own safety. Are you surprised? When you betray the people this badly? I mean, I'm just talking about Brexit. I'm not even talking about this. This, at the moment, is complete surrender. We can't vote for Conservative or Labour. If you're a Labour supporter, you've got to understand that Corbyn will do whatever it is just to try and get himself into power. And when he does, he's not going to act on the votes that you voted the people in for. If you remember what he said about what he was going to do for people who were going to college, free this, free that, and all of a sudden he pulled back on that and said, no, this is not a man that can be trusted, and nor are the Conservatives. If they call an election, we have no other option but voting for UKIP. Not Nigel Farage's lot, because when he doesn't like the taste of the medicine, he leaves and then starts a new thing and splits the vote. I don't want that. You've got to go for UKIP on this one. They've been out for a long time. We know what they're about. But if this lot in power get their way and we don't leave the EU, this lot will kick in and we've lost England forever. Now, I'm not being dramatic about this, but it's set out there in black and white. We are absolutely knackered if this goes ahead. Worse still, nobody was asked if we were all right about this. Nobody. They didn't come out and say, here is our agreement that we want to put forward. Can we have a vote on this to see if you're happy about it or not? Because they know damn well what would have happened. We'd have all said, no chance. But do you think, if the youth of today, better off in Europe and all the rest of it, knew about this, they'd be happy? I mean, there are some muppets that would be, clearly. But I think most of them wouldn't be. But when this goes through, if it goes through, we'll never be able to reverse it. And the European army, which they said that was only just a joke, will happen. And the United States of Europe will happen. The reason they want this army is because when people cotton on to what's happening, they'll want to leave. And the European army will come in and quash any kind of rebellion at all. That's the purpose of the European army, don't be fooled. I wanted to get this out there because, to be honest, this scares the living daylights out of me. I have a daughter who I love dearly, and I've got friends who have got kids, and their future is going to be ruined. I mean, this is really black times. Not just for the fact that they'll be taxed to the eyeballs. They'll have no laws that protect them. They won't be able to do anything. There'll be ridiculous amounts of unemployment because they're going to flood the country full of unskilled labour. And who knows? You know, by 2030, we could be an Islamic country. I just thought I'd share this with you because, as I said, it scares the living daylights out of me. Please remember to like, share and subscribe and tell your friends about this because this is truly, truly worrying.